Hello, welcome to PlayStation Access. I'm Nathan. I'm here with Garreth, who is a producer on FIFA 17, which all three of us have been playing downstairs. So as I told you, I had a little bit of time with the game in the UK, and we've done a video about having a look at all the big changes for this year. I guess the key one that people want to, after the conference yesterday, that people want to know a lot more about. For the first time ever, FIFA's got characters and story. And I think this is something you worked on. So if you could tell us a bit about, it's called The Journey, right?
Absolutely, The Journey.
And if you could kind of, I had a quick chat with Nick Channon, who's also working on the series. And he explained that you guys kind of sat down and you looked at all the modes that you had, and you kind of thought, this kind of story, this is a gap in what we offer. Is that kind of the starting point of the journey?
Yeah, definitely. We looked at what we do as a whole within the game, and we knew that there was always this gap of, we wanted to tell a story of football, beyond what's just on the pitch.
Mm-hmm.
And it's something like Frostbite, which is a huge change for us, that really gives us the ability to do some of this new stuff. So that combination of these ideas that we've had around what can we do with story, what can we do with narrative, combined with this amazing engine that we brought into the game, gives us that combination to really do the journey.
And Frostbite is giving you guys the ability to kind of present, I think that football games have dipped their toe into this kind of thing before, showing the tunnel, but you guys are kind of presenting a world, still a footballing world, but away from the pitch.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's really what Frostbite can give us is, the change room, airplane, the buses, the apartments, your home, like these things that footballers see and live in all the time, and we wanted to really bring that into the story and into the game.
Awesome, cool. And talking about the journey itself, so it's a kind of a RPG kind of a mode. I mean, maybe that's too strong a word, but there are dialogue choices, and you can upgrade. Alex is our character, is that right?
Yeah.
And you can kind of pull him in different directions. Can you explain kind of how, one thing I couldn't get, I played like the preview section, is how deep these options are, and how much you can change, and how much his story will vary depending on how you play on the pitch.
Right. So when we started working on this way back, a couple of years ago, we went and talked to the BioWare guys. So we went to Edmonton, we talked to them, we learned from them what they did with their sort of personality systems and what they did with story in their games. And we brought that back to our studio and used it for our development.
Sure.
So things like what you would have seen, which is the interview, being able to choose what you want to say.
Yeah.
We wanted to have a little bit of personality effect on that. So what you say can change your personality, can change how your teammates and other people feel about you.
Okay.
It's also reflected in social media. So what you say in a post-match interview can also show up on social media the next day.
The trends and things. Oh, awesome.
Exactly.
You get that like match of the day now. It has tweets from footballers like during the show, doesn't it?
And then for us, we want this to be about you and not just something that you play along with like a movie.
Right.
So your performances on the pitch will really drive the questions you get asked in those interviews, the different types of scene content you get.
Okay.
So there's a lot of scenes that someone playing through the mode would see that you might not see because you're playing differently. You signed for a different club. You went on a really hot streak, or you went on a cold streak. You got a red card and I didn't.
Sure.
All that content is going to be reflected back in the game with the actual scenes.
Awesome. And Nick was also talking to me about that it was a choice to feature a character rather than giving people the opportunity to kind of customize them, make themselves essentially in the game.
Yes.
And that's because it allowed you to tell kind of a fixed story, a deeper story. Was that like how it was for you guys when you were putting it together?
Yeah, when we were putting it together, it's something we debated a lot, right? Because being a fan of the BioWare games, we were like, well, do we do character? We do something fixed. And ultimately, it came down to telling the best story we could tell. So by creating this character of Alex Hunter, by giving him, family, friends, a background, it really let us tell that story in a deeper way than if we had let people, create characters and make themselves essentially.
Yeah, sure. Okay. And the other big thing, so the big kind of headline before we get into gameplay, the other big headline change this year is Frostbite.
Yes.
And I guess it would be interesting to know from your point of view what's the attraction of that. I know it's been years in the making, and we've played, and I guess the obvious things for us are the presentation when you come onto the pitch just kind of has an extra level of atmosphere and details to it. But if you could talk a little bit about what Frostbite brings to FIFA, that would be great.
Yeah, I think the three really big things it brings. So there's that authentic, real life feel. So when we look at the game right now, if you go into Old Trafford and you see the atmosphere, it's the kind of thing we haven't been able to do in the past.
Sure.
I think the character content, we've never been able to get to the level of detail that we have within our faces, the sweat, the hair, the lighting.
Right.
We've got players more realistic than we've ever had.
Yeah.
And then I think a huge one is just something like the journey we would never be able to do without Frostbite.
Sure.
So it's given us the tools to put that together. And for us, what we've done in Frostbite this year in 17, we look at it as just the beginning. So this is just kind of the baseline. And in collaboration with the rest of EA, we think we can do some really amazing things going forward.
Cool. And looking at gameplay, I think this is where most people kind of engage with the game, and everyone wants to know what's new and what's different from this season. So the big things, I played it for a couple of hours now, and I'm kind of struggling, but then sometimes I like to struggle when I come back to a new FIFA, because it means that things are very different.
Yep.
There does seem to have been that kind of investment in gameplay over the last couple of games in particular. A huge thing is physical play.
Yes.
Now, if you could kind of break down like how physical play works, it's kind of putting all of the kind of the jostling mechanics and things that we've had kind of in the past. And to me, they've seemed like a bit of a dark art. You know, I'm never really sure which button, whether I should be pressing the shoulder button or square. And now it's all on L2, whether you're in offense or defense, right?
That's correct. What's amazing is physical play we've been working on even longer than the journey. So it's been almost 3 years of us working on the technical side of how we want the system to work. And I think the best way I can describe it is it's not, these sort of jostling animations that are coming into play. We're actually using the balance, the strength, and the weight of the players.
Right, so attributes from their actual kind of...
Correct.
Right.
So someone like, Ibra is going to have a lot of those traits, and you'll be able to hold up the ball a lot better. And yes, it's all on that L2, which gives you the power to use it when you want to be physical or not. So it's used offensively, defensively. As a big striker, you can hold up the ball a lot better. But then also for a smaller player who's still strong, like Eden Hazard, you can still use it for 360-degree dribbling to keep defenders off. So I think it's really going to change how people play the game. It's going to be a lot more tactical as to when you want to use your body versus play more skillfully.
Sure, and it slows you up. Is that right? That's what I'm getting. If you're trying to be physical, you're obviously not sprinting at full speed. So you are kind of. Is it how you move? When people are coming in with physical challenges and you've got the ball, it's kind of a decision of like, I need to be strong here, but then I want to break away. Is it? Is it
correct? All those things you said, and then also if you don't have the ball yet, or you're about to make a first touch to the ball, it's also a decision you can make to, instead of trying to make that first touch, to actually get in front of an opposing player, shield them from the ball, and then take your touch. So I think that's where you get more of the tactical thinking coming into play with that feature.
One of the other big areas that you've talked about, and this is one it's so hard to tell even from just a few hours play, this is going to play out over the whole season, is that you've got, is it called Active Intelligence System? Is that?
Yes.
And I understand that this is, I mean, this stuff gets unavoidably incredibly complicated, right? Because this is how you taught a computer to play football, and now you're kind of teaching it how to be aware of the space on the pitch in a slightly more informed way, right?
Yes.
If you could explain that better than me, that would be great.
Absolutely. So I think, as you said, in the past, our intelligence systems are always kind of looking at any given moment, what's the best place to go? Where's the best space for players to go? And in cases, you could have it appear to be very static.
Right.
So the players are trying to understand where the best run is to make. What we've got in FIFA 17 is the ability for players to think, 1, 2, 3 plays ahead, understand where the space is going to be, not necessarily where the space is right now.
Right, okay.
Which allows for some really interesting interplay between teammates. So now you can have teammates pulling up short to free up space for someone to make a run in behind.
Okay.
And really interact together instead of sort of solo runs into random space. That intelligence is really now coming into play.
And that's the kind of thing. It's like it's so hard to judge. I've played it for quite a long time, I think, but it's the kind of thing that plays out over a whole. This is a deep and sophisticated change. How long have you guys been working on the Active Intelligence system?
This has been at least a couple years. Something we're working on and tuning every year. But this is actually quite a bigger change than what we've seen in the past. And it's something we're really excited about because, as you know, attacking intelligence is one of the best ways to showcase how smart the game is, how smart your teammates are, and for you as a player, understanding football and knowing what to look out for and who to pass the ball to.
Yeah, of course, yeah. My last question is about probably my favorite change this year, and it's not, I know these, like the other things, are things which the whole team have been working really hard on. These seem a bit simpler, but they're so important, and this is the set piece overhaul.
Yes.
Just being able to move up and down on the line when I'm doing a throw-in seems really important, and I know that you must know, because of the feedback that you guys get, people get really frustrated if the set pieces don't work quite how they want. So can you kind of talk about, could you tell us especially about the kind of free kicks and the penalties, which I'm still terrible at, by the way, and kind of what the approach has been? What have you tried to give to the set pieces this year?
Yeah, I think overall we know that there's two ways to play. You've got set pieces and then your normal free play, and the mechanics were always quite different. So taking a penalty is so different from taking a normal shot within our game.
Sure, it's almost like a little mini game.
Exactly, and we wanted to get away from that and have it feel more like the full game. So for penalties, for example, you can now control the angle you start your penalty from. You can control the speed and the angle of your run up. So you can do all kinds of new types of runs up to your penalty. And then you finish much in the same way that you do in the main game. And then for something like corner kicks, we've added the ability to really aim and place that corner kick where you want on the pitch. So it's not just moving, the left stick and hoping it goes where you want. You can actually try to place that ball, control the power, and once the ball's in flight, have your teammates or your players run on to try to get ahead on it.
Awesome.
And I've found this is the most fun I've had with set pieces in any FIFA. It feels like you really have control over what's going on and what you're doing in the game.
For me, honestly, the throw-ins are the big thing. Just the ability to kind of just dummy it, just to kind of move up and down and open the space up. It feels really good. I think that's basically all my questions for you today. You were saying that you were working on FIFA Ultimate Team, and I know we're not talking about that today. Do you have any idea when? Because that's going to be it's a huge following for Ultimate Team. Do you know when you guys are going to be speaking a bit more about that?
I have an idea. I don't think I can talk about that yet. But
all right, that's how secret it is. We don't even know when it's not going to be secret. All right, well, that's brilliant. Thank you very much for speaking to us today. Thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to follow us all throughout E3. We're going to have loads more coming up.